From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 395. Today's episode is brought to you by Trade, Indeed, and Hover. My name is Mike Hurley, and I am alive, and I'm joined by Federico Viticci. Hi, Federico.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I feel terrible.
Well, you are alive.
I don't.
So that's good.
I've tested negative consistently for COVID. I have many COVID symptoms. I don't know what to tell anyone. You know what I mean?
Maybe you just don't have it. Maybe you just have a cold or something, and it's just.
I think I just have the regular coronavirus, not the COVID-19 coronavirus.
No, is that a thing? Well, I guess that's a thing.
COVID-19 is a coronavirus.
So maybe you have another coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. I think like cold and flus are coronaviruses.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
Well, at the very least, that's not preventing you from being here. So that's technically a good thing. But I'm sorry you still feel.
Well, we'll see how I get by the end of the episode, because one of my biggest issues right now is I generally keep losing focus. So, looking at our topic list today, I'm intrigued to see how that's going to go for me.
Okay. It's also my pleasure to introduce Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Federico. Hello, Mike.
Hi.
I don't have any COVID symptoms, so I think I'm good. I think I'm in the clear.
Good for you.
I don't think I've had it.
Man.
I mean, maybe I had it and didn't know it. I think that's true for a lot of people, but
Like you had no symptoms at all?
maybe I'll escape.
Coronaviruses are a group of related RNA viruses. That's the beginning of common cold. The common cold is one. So we've all had coronavirus, just not COVID-19 maybe.
Yeah, not the flashy one.
Severe acute respiratory syndrome, Middle East respiratory syndrome, coronavirus disease 2019, and then there's another one, which has not really got a fun name.
Let's do some follow-up. Federico, have you gotten your Apple Watch repaired yet?
Not repaired, but we received this tip by a listener of the show, Mike. Mike suggested toggling the optimized battery charging setting in the battery health section of the Apple Watch inside settings. Mike mentioned you could see if it charges if it solves your charging issues. The watchOS 8.5 update could have lost your routine. Now, the optimized battery charging is the setting that to reduce battery aging. Basically, the Apple Watch and the iPhone has the same option. It learns from your daily charging routine, and it waits to finish charging your device past the 80% threshold until you need to use it. I forgot about this option that it existed. I found that it was enabled on my watch. I'm pretty sure I keep it disabled on my iPhone because I'm really, I don't trust Apple with any of these intelligent things. And also, I always sell my iPhones on the next year when the battery is still at like 90, 92, 93%, and most buyers are okay with that. So I disabled the toggle. I disabled the option just because I also like to be fully in control of how a thing charges. Like when I put it on the charger, I want it to be fully charged when I pick it up. And what I can tell you is that I just tested this today. I had my phone at 50% at 4 p.m. I just checked. It is now 3 hours later and it's at 100%. So maybe the issues have been fixed. And maybe I just needed to, turn it off and on again or something. I don't know. But, it used to be that it would do 50% in like 10 hours, maybe even 12. And it's done in 3. So I think I'm okay now.
So strange. That is, I get the thinking behind the feature, especially after Apple went through your battery degrades, so we cut down your performance thing a few years ago. But I, like you, have it off. It was on my watch. I've turned it off now, but I have it off on my phone. And really just, I want to know, like, if I put my phone down, it's charging, right? And I don't know. I don't want to be caught out where, like, I need it at some point and I'm, like, waiting for it to figure out what's going to happen with the charging cycle that it's on. So I have it flipped off as well.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but these settings, I think they re-enable themselves even though they're not supposed to, because I'm sure I had it disabled on my phone. I checked again and it was enabled once more. So it must be one of those things that Apple quietly re-enables behind the scenes for you because they really think it's what's best for you. But I don't want what's best for me. I want what I decide. So I like you just said, like I want to make sure that if I need my phone at 100%, that it's not making a decision for me based on my routine. Also because I don't really have a routine. I'm all over the place these days. Yeah, I disabled it again. And yes, Kate from Discord is asking, are you on the beta? Yes, I'm on the beta, not on the watch though. I'm on the beta on the iPhone. Watch is on the stable release.
Yeah, I don't ever run watchOS betas. That just seems like a world of hurt I'd rather avoid. We spoke last time about trade-in programs and how Apple's isn't always the best option in town. Mike, I think we got some feedback about storage sizes and how that factors in.
Yeah, I had a few people contact me and tell me, because, I was saying that like comparing Apple's trade-in prices with third-party trading companies and how, a third-party trading company, the maximum that would pay would be X, but Apple would be Y. And one of the things I was referencing is that the third-party trading companies, they pay more depending on the value of the phone. So if you have like a Pro Max with the highest storage tier, you get more money than if it was a lower storage tier. Mm-hmm. And many people wrote in to tell me, but Apple doesn't account for storage tiers, to which I say, I don't care. They should. If Apple will charge more for a thing, and will also, I'm sure they charge more when they do put them on the refurb store too, which some of the devices that come into them, they either recycle them or refurbish them. They choose not to do that. I think actually it stacks more against me saying how bad a deal Apple's recycling trade-in, like whatever you call it, program is, in that they just give you the price as if you had the lowest storage tier. Because that is a weird thing to me of saying like, Apple, so how much value is there in the highest storage tier then? Like if you don't deem worth buying it back from me at that price, why do I have to pay that price in the first place, Because there's quite a premium as you start going up in the storage tiers. So yeah, sure, it is a thing, right? Apple will always only pay you for the lowest, but I think that is yet another thing that they're doing wrong when it comes to their trade-in program, if they want to be encouraging people to use that rather than other means of recycling or reusing or repurposing their phones.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the capacity should definitely be an element there.
I would understand if every single phone that went to the trade-in program went to recycling. I would understand that more because it's like, well, it isn't, there is no real difference, right? Like it's not like the SSD is physically larger or smaller or whatever, right? But that isn't the case, right? They do take those phones and put them for the refurb program. So
this episode of Connected is brought to you by Trade. Mike, I believe you have gone through the Trade coffee experience. Will you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, I love Trade coffee. What I love two things about them. I love how fantastic and simple their quiz is. So when you sign up, they ask you a bunch of really simple questions about your coffee preferences, about your flavor preferences, without making them too complicated in case it's your first time thinking about that kind of stuff. So they break that down really easily. And then they send coffee to you that is going to match what you're looking for. And it comes from all of these hundreds of different roasteries around the US, or with their own individual styles and all that kind of stuff. And I really love it. They do something that's really cool to connect people. Like Brad was just telling me today, like he is using Trade, and he's ended up finding a roastery that's in Atlanta that he now loves through Trade Coffee too. So like
that's cool.
They do a great thing of connecting you with really fun and small individual companies that you can get some great coffee from.
Yeah, no, I love it as an owner of a small business that small businesses, small roasteries can get out there in front of a lot of people. Trade's coffee team taste tests thousands of coffees, and they keep 450 different kinds ready to ship every day. They are confident you will be matched right the first time. And if you aren't, you can give them some feedback, and an actual coffee expert will work with you to send you a brand new bag for free so you'll be looked after. It just takes a couple of questions to get your own personalized variety of coffees delivered fresh to you as often as you like. Those freshly roasted coffee bags that get delivered, you can get whole beans or ground, however you want it. and they guarantee you'll love your first order or they'll replace it for free. Right now, Trade is offering new subscribers a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping when you go to drinktrade.com/connected. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. So get started by taking their quiz at drinktrade.com/connected and let Trade find you a coffee that you'll love. Once more, drinktrade.com/connected for $30 off. And don't forget, Mother's Day is coming up. A Trade subscription is the perfect gift for the coffee lovers in your life. Our thanks to Trade for the support of the show and Relay FM. Okay, so moving on a little bit, I want to talk about the studio display. Remember when the reviews came out, some people were kind of mediocre or, not super excited. The people weren't mediocre. The camera's mediocre, and people said it was mediocre. That's what I'm trying to get at. Apple said there was going to be a software update to address some of the issues. So there were image quality issues. Some people felt like the rate at which center stage would change the framing of the image was kind of weird and a little bit slow. The update is now out as a beta. So the new macOS beta includes Studio Display firmware 15.5. I wonder where they got 15.5 from. That's such a specific number. And you can install it if you're running that 12.4 macOS Monterey beta. Apple says it has introduced refinements for the camera tuning, including improved noise reduction, contrast, and framing. Jason Snell's in the unique position that he has two studio displays. He has his review unit from Apple, and then he has one that he purchased. And so he has a video and article up where one of them is running the new firmware and one is running the old one. And it's a little better, I guess. The framing is definitely better, but it still doesn't look, I think, as good as some people had hoped.
I think there was just the thinking that it was just going to fix all of the possible problems, right? And just defy physics to do that. They were somehow going to put a new camera in the thing.
Yeah.
Which wasn't going to happen. I mean, I think it's honestly, I think it's fine. I would prefer something better, but I would prefer a better camera in all of Apple's. Honestly, I think every front-facing camera that Apple makes could be better, even on the iPhone. And there was a report that I saw last week that they are going to be improving the front-facing camera again, finally putting autofocus on it on the iPhone.
Wait, it doesn't have autofocus?
No.
How?
It's only Samsung, I think. Are the only...
I guess it's just a fixed focal length.
Yeah. I think that Samsung are the only ones that have it. I mean, and then I think the focusing is... It does have focusing, right? You can tap to focus, but it doesn't have autofocus. So it's not doing anything to detect the focus and doing it itself. So, and most people do not tap to focus. They just take a picture. But the laptop cameras aren't good enough, the iMac cameras aren't good enough, and the studio display cameras aren't good enough because they're just putting whatever they're putting in there. And I think now it's just the not good enoughness of it is being exacerbated by the fact that they're cropping an ultra wide lens, right? Which, I mean, everyone who's used the ultra wide on the iPhone even knows that only really this past year with the 14 did the quality of that sensor get good enough to take regular photos on. You know what I mean? Which is probably why they were able to put the macro lens in, because they actually could get quality out of it. But even then, you get so much noise from that lens compared to the others. So it doesn't surprise me really that the quality is worse. I mean, my studio display is on the previous release. I'm not going to update to a macOS beta for this. And when it does the correct, because it still doesn't do correct detection all the time of the flickering, the refresh rate thing. It does it, but I sometimes have to open and quit apps multiple times for it to actually lock in and stop the screen from flickering. When I can get it to work right, it's fine. I mean, for Zoom calls, it's fine. It's fine. But I wasn't expecting anything better from them, to be honest. I'm happy that they've made it better, but,
Yeah, I think people... I mean, I think even Apple, when they announced it, they were like, and it's going to be great for, all these different things. And I think they just made certain trade-offs to support center stage, which I guess, is a cool feature. I mean, it's nice on the iPads, but that means that the quality overall is going to be worse. And I guess we could debate, or people could debate, whether that was the right trade-off. I actually fall on the side that I don't think it was, but I've never been in a situation where like center stage like kept me from, having to adjust a monitor or something. So I don't know. Clearly Apple likes center stage. They're into it. It's showing up in a bunch of places, and they thought that, well, this is a good enough feature. We're willing to sacrifice some image quality for it. And to your point, an update's not going to like overcome the hardware they have to use to support that feature.
Yeah, I wonder if they should have waited for center stage until they could actually put a better sensor in there, like an actual better camera in there.
Mm-hmm.
I like center stage though. I think it's a good feature, but I know Jason's has always been very on the idea of center stage on the Mac, but I don't know. To me, I feel like it's more needed on an iPad than a Mac. Like, because the iPad will sometimes be down on the desk, or like it's at weird angles. Where like the Mac is always going to be sure, like at least a studio display, say, is always going to be some consistent level with your eye line, right? Right? Like a studio display specifically.
Right.
Laptops, maybe iMacs would be different, but if you're buying the studio display, surely you have it at like some kind of consistent angle all the time to you as the person viewing the content. Like, I don't know on this specific product how important center stage was. Like on the laptop, I see it more because the laptops move. I actually think center stage makes the most sense on products that aren't in fixed positions, because that means they're more likely to be not at the right angle at any one time.
I don't know. I feel like on a MacBook, center stage is useful there because it's basically like an iPad. And I mean, sure, you have the viewing angle you can adjust with more freedom than an iPad Pro or than an iPad in a Magic Keyboard. I don't think, I struggle to imagine the benefit of center stage on an iMac or a studio display. I mean, it's nice to have, but also those kinds of computers, they're stationary, they stay on a desk. And if you're having a video call there, I don't imagine you're constantly walking around, the room where your iMac or your studio display is, and the thing needs to keep you in frame, right? I mean, the iPad makes sense, or a MacBook makes sense. You're keeping them in the kitchen, in the living room, you're doing things, but you also want to be in the frame. An iMac, I don't know, it just, or a studio display, I mean, it's nice to have, but it makes more sense, like you said, Mike, for a portable device. I don't know. I think I'm just surprised that this image, honestly, to me, it looks really bad. And I'm just surprised that even after the update, it still looks so washed up and softened compared to...
It's the softness, I think, that
it's the
really
softness
gets
that
me. Yeah.
It really sticks out, especially compared to an old iMac Pro. I don't know. I'm not sure if they are done in terms of fixing whatever they can fix. And sure, there's only so much that physics, can do here. I mean, if it's a bad camera, if it's a bad sensor, it's a bad sensor. But if you can do it, if you can do a little more in software, I think they should try. Because it's maybe there's something they can do for the softness of the image that part really sticks out. Even if it's a decent camera that is not great, but it's not horrible, maybe they can do a little something extra in software.
Yeah, I just don't know if an ultra wide's going to be able to do it, because it's the light, right? Like, I think that's the issue, is the amount of light that it can let in. And it seems like, I mean, I don't understand cameras enough, but it seems like ultra wide sensors just can't let us the same amount of light in as a regular wide angle sensor can do. And you can do color stuff, but I think the biggest thing for me is the amount of quality coming in more than the sharpness than the color correction stuff. But I think this is also one of these issues of everyone sees it their own way, right? And people just are either happy or unhappy. But even now, we're all talking about different ways we think the image should look different. But I think everyone can agree that this is not a good image, and it's just funny. It's just a funny thing, really, of how did this happen? Because this really, I keep seeing this phrase a lot, like with various things recently. Unforced error. I like that phrase a lot. Like this feels like an unforced error from Apple, which is, I guess, kind of rare from them with something like this, where it's like, hey, we put this thing out and it's not good enough, and we actually can't ever get it to the place where you want it, and that's just how it's always going to be. It's funny.
And Federico, you mentioned the iMac Pro. It had such a better webcam than anything else Apple had out at the time. This feels like a step in the wrong direction from that. Like the iMac Pro, I think, is still the high watermark in terms of built-in cameras from Apple on a Mac or a display.
And it wasn't so great, but still, I mean, I guess anything compared to this image is better. So it really says a lot that we are celebrating the iMac Pro's webcam compared to the Studio Display one. So I honestly don't know what's worse here. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know. With these things, it feels very bad all the time to say, hey, hopefully they'll fix it in software, and yeah, there's only so much that they can do. I don't know.
So Ryan in the Discord is saying, why can't they put the camera processing from the phones in the Mac cameras? It doesn't matter because it's not the same sensor. Like, to my understanding, the front-facing camera on the iPhone is a better one than the one in the center stage, I believe. So, because I don't think it's the same wideness. Because I think that's the biggest issue. Like, I think I saw Rene Ritchie say today that it's the same image processor from the iPad 9 or something.
Yeah, I think that's true. Which is the same front-facing hardware as the iPhone 11.
Maybe it is as good as the iPhone 11, and we've just forgotten what that one was like. Wasn't the iPhone 11 the one where we didn't like the cameras in the end?
That was the XS.
No, that was the
10S?
Yeah.
10S. Okay.
Yeah, the Smart HDR was cranked all the way to bananas town on that one. The iPhone 11 front-facing camera did not have center stage, so they've taken that hardware and like overlaid it or tweaked it somehow with center stage. And I think the result is just not up to snuff, which is a bummer. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Indeed. Hunting down answers to your questions can be really rewarding, but when it comes to hiring, you don't always have as much time as you'd like to spend finding great candidates with the right skills. That's why there's Indeed, the best hiring partner your team can get. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. You can invite them to apply right away, plus you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. It's pretty incredible how easy Indeed makes it to hire great talent. According to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. And with Instant Match, over 90% of employers get quality candidates as soon as they sponsor their job post, according to Indeed data. Start hiring right now with a free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/connected. This offer is valid through April 30th. Go to Indeed.com/connected to claim your $75 credit before April 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Our thanks to Indeed for their support of the show and Relay FM.
So allow me to provide some real-time follow-up on cameras. So the Studio Display has a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera with a 122-degree field of view at f2.4 aperture. Both the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 11 have a 12 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture. So the aperture is different, and I do not believe the front-facing camera on the iPhones is an ultra-wide sensor. I think it's a wide sensor that's cropped in a little bit. So there you go. It's the sensor may be something, but like the lens is a different thing, and I think this is part of where the problem's lying. So that is as much as I have for you. I'm sure many more smarter people will talk about camera things specifically.
We woke up to news this morning that Apple has launched its self-service repair program. This was initially announced at the end of last year. And just last week, Apple said in an environmental update that it was coming this year. And I guess here it is. So there's a link in the show notes to Apple's press release, or you can go to selfservicerepair.com and order parts and tools. We'll get to that website domain here in a few minutes. It launches with 200 parts and tools for iPhones. It's the iPhone SE third generation and the iPhone 12 and 13 line. So nothing older than that. Macs with Apple Silicon, parts for those are coming later. And at launch, it is basically just here, with Europe coming later this year. What do y'all think looking through this site about the types of parts you can order and do you feel empowered to take on your own repair at some point?
Man, I love Best Buy. BestBuy.com, that's what it looks like, right?
It doesn't look like an Apple website.
Well, it's not an Apple website, it turns out.
It's not an Apple website.
Yeah. So this consumed my morning because this site is weird. The manuals are on Apple's website. The warranty information is on Apple's website. Ordering parts and tools is on this other website. And so in looking at the website, selfservicerepair.com, it doesn't look like an Apple property. In fact, it uses like a Google font, Roboto, for its typeface. Very un-Apple in terms of branding and design, to a point where a bunch of people on Twitter were replying to me saying, if I didn't know this was an Apple condoned thing, I would think it was a scam. Because like it looks fake. Like it doesn't look or act like an Apple website would. And it turns out it's run by a company called Service Parts or Tools Incorporated, or SPOT. So if you look at the privacy policy or the contact page, or when you go to make an account, because you don't sign in with your normal Apple ID like you would if Apple was selling these on their website, you have to create another account on this website to order parts. Very strange. It's all through this SPOT company.
Why don't they have sign up with Apple or whatever?
I don't know. They do support Apple Pay, along with some other weird payment stuff that Apple would never support. But there's no sign in with Apple. It's very strange. It turns out that Service Parts or Tools Incorporated was just founded in Pennsylvania, like in December. It's owned by this bigger company called Communications Test Design, or CTDI. At this point, I was like full beautiful mind on this morning. I had like tabs open. I was looking up like this company's paperwork in the state of Pennsylvania. It was wild. Very exciting day over here. CTDI, this company that is a logistics company, and they handle part of Apple's trade-in program. So if you're like Mike and you want the best deal for an old iPhone, you trade it into Apple.
Yeah, I love deals.
If you're in the US, it gets shipped to a warehouse that this company manages. And so they handle other logistics for Apple. And Apple, for some reason, has seemed fit to let this company handle the repair and tools, purchasing, rentals, returns, the whole thing, which is fascinating to me. And I don't know why they did it. John Voorhees suggested maybe there's liability issues. Maybe Apple just didn't want to involve their own people in it. The cynical take, and the one that I got on Twitter over and over, is that Apple doesn't really want people to do this. And so by making it like a fake website that's not on Apple's domain, maybe some people won't trust it and they'll just go to the store and pay Apple
that's
directly.
The first thing I thought also. Like, they must really hate this thing for this website to look so bad.
My take on it is close to that, which is just they do not want people to see these parts on their retail store.
Yeah.
That Apple don't want people to buy this stuff, and so they don't want to make it like that they search for iPhone and they get iPhone 13 Pro display bundle, right? Or like, oh, do you want 2 pieces of display adhesive for the iPhone 13 Pro? What
Like
about
an
a display cowling, lower? Do you want one of those? So I think it's a combination of these things of like, also to piggyback on what you two were saying, like they don't want to deal with this. They don't want to apply like their own resources, I'm sure, to manage and maintain this and provide customer support and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they just found the company that would be able to do it for them.
And this is what this company does. I mean, they pride themselves in being a leader in the rapidly growing communications, mobility, and consumer device service industry. So, like, they're doing
Remember
this stuff.
remember when we thought Apple was gonna do a nice online sort of service repair store that was gonna look like an Apple store, and they were gonna do the Apple packaging for the tools and all the instruments. Yeah, that was a nice fantasy that we had.
Talking about fantasies, I don't know why exactly I thought in my mind that this was the beginning of a process where people could easily do these things themselves.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, technically, Steven, of the three of us, could go to the store and be like, hey, I want to replace Mike's iPhone screen for him. And it's like, great, I can go there. I can get all the stuff I need. You can go, you can get the iPhone 13 Pro display bundle, which gives you like the screen and the adhesive and like all the bits and bobs you would need. But then it's like, oh, hey, if you want to do this, you need these like 25 tools.
Yeah.
Right?
You need a machine
so you're like,
to do it, like an actual machine you put your phone in.
The display
Yes.
press, it's $216.
Yeah.
So you can, and I will say, hats off to Apple that they will let you buy, right, the heated display removal fixture tool, right? Like you can
looks
buy
dangerous.
it, right? Like if you want it, like it's yours. You can buy it.
I kind of want one.
You can buy it. What I do also like that the manuals are all really. I love that they have the manuals, right? And I think iFixit we're talking about. It's great. The manuals exist now.
And they're pretty good.
Now, let me give you this is the tools list from the manual, right? To replace the screen on an iPhone 13 Pro Max. 6.7-inch heated display pocket, 6.7-inch repair tray, adhesive cutter, display adhesive press plate, display press, ESD safe tweezers, ethanol wipes, heated display removal fixture, heat resistant gloves, JCIS bit, micro sticks bit, nylon probe, torque driver, torque security bit. So that's all of the stuff that you need, right?
Have you
And
seen sand and sand container?
they sell sand?
If you open the iPhone 13 Pro Max manual, in the list of tools, you will see on the third section, there's sand and sand container.
What's the sand for?
I don't know.
Sand and sand container.
Clean, dry, untreated sand, 8 to 10 cups.
How to set up a workspace for battery safety.
Oh, I know what it's for. If you puncture the battery,
Yeah.
the sand, because the lithium whatever reacts more strongly with the oxygen, and so you stick it in the sand, and hopefully it won't blow up your house.
Under the warning heading, which is amazing, how to handle a battery thermal event,
A thermal event.
aka when a battery catches on fire.
Or as we call it in the business, a BTE. You know?
Got a real BTE going on here.
Yeah.
But so anyway, going back to the tools, a lot of tools. You say, Mike, I don't want to spend all that money on all those tools. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of dollars, considering the display press and the heated display removal fixture will come to $457 in total. You can rent from Apple an iPhone 13 Pro Tool kit. For $49, you can have it for a week. It comes in 2 huge Pelican cases, which include all of the stuff that you need to replace your own screen at home, right? So it is this huge thing that you get sent these 2 things, you take it back to a UPS, or send it for free,
Yeah.
$49, and then you take it back to a UPS store and ship it back to them.
It's just a cool 79 pounds of tools.
Is that how much it weighs?
Yeah. One case
Okay.
weighs 43 pounds and the other weighs 36 pounds,
Oh my God.
according to Apple's, Spot's website.
So all of this
The cases each have roller wheels to aid in transport.
is in theory to replace one screen, right? Like if Steven's replacing my screen for me.
Yes.
So this includes all of the machines and all of the tools, and then you buy the parts, right? So you can get those 2 things together. So after the rebate that you get, approximately for the parts and the tools, you will pay $330 for this.
Okay.
To go into an Apple store out of warranty and get a screen replacement is $329.
Who's gonna do it? Okay, one thought. How many people are gonna buy this thing and set up like in secret, like a side business, fixing people's iPhones?
I think that's one of
official
the reasons
parts?
that you can buy the tools. I think that they're
Yeah.
aware of that, and I think they're kind of okay with that. Right, which I think is why because if they weren't okay with that, the tools would be rental only, right? Like those big
Yeah.
things, like the proprietary big things that they've built, you would just be able to rent those. So basically, at the point where you have paid the same amount of money, there's no point to do this because you are running the risk of not doing it correctly. And if you're doing it for the environment, right, you do because like a lot of this stuff is environmental thinking. When you have shipped 79 pounds of tools backwards and forwards,
that's not good for the environment.
you have left a bad kind of dent in the universe at that point.
Yeah.
So this, to me, is two things. One, it is enabling people to be able to more easily do this stuff better, right? In the sense of what Federico was saying. Someone could buy some of these machines and they have access to the parts and they could do it. Now, I know that it's a little slower if you were going to do it this way because you have to put in like an IMEI number into for each phone to order the parts, but that adds like an extra day into the process if somebody was bringing it to you to repair, right? Like, so for example, maybe you're a large company, like say you're a construction company and you're doing this all the time. Maybe you would prefer to do it in-house. I don't know why you would, but maybe you would. You would get the price down eventually because you're not going to be paying those $50 for the tools or whatever. I don't know. The other real reason that they're doing this is so they can say that they're doing it. So it's one of the legal things off their back.
Yes. So this website, the self-repair website, has the same energy of how Apple is approaching the solution for the Dutch regulators for the payments outside of the App Store. Like, it's literally the same energy. Like, how can we design this in such a way that it sucks and most people are not gonna do it? But hey, technically we did it. So hey, yay us, we complied. But you complied in the ugliest possible way.
I like how some of the I look at the nylon probe, which is called a black stick. It's very common to use in computer repair. $3, but $9 to ship it. Come on.
Now, I will say, like, I'm being very particular. Like, I haven't looked into loads of things, like, the battery or whatever. Maybe it's cheaper to do a battery this way, although that's probably the one you definitely shouldn't do on your own.
Yeah, the battery is cheaper after the part rebate. So this works similar to how it works in like auto repair. So like you replace the water pump on your car, there's a core charge. Like if you take back your old dead water pump, they give you money off your purchase of a new one because that will go get refurbished. And so they're doing similar things here. So the battery ends up being a little bit cheaper, assuming I didn't really factor in like if you need the $49 big kit of tools. If you do, it's about the same.
You do. You do need the big kit of tools. You need the tools because you have to be able to take it off.
I didn't look at the complete, like every scenario, but I would imagine that most, if not all of them, it's basically the same cost to have Apple or an official Apple, support partner do it as opposed to doing it yourself. And
I mean, the battery is definitely more expensive because like an out of warranty battery is $69 and it costs you $46. I know after the credit to get it, and then you're paying $49 for the tool kit. So,
and you got to pay, when you burn your apartment down. So
yeah, we gotta get. I don't know if the toolkit includes sand.
Oh,
I should look into that.
I just want to buy some sand. Can I just buy the sand? Let's see.
I don't know if they sell sand. I think you've got to bring your own sand. There's no sand in the toolkit.
Man, it's a bummer. I don't see sand as a standalone thing. I thought Federico said it was here.
Oh, no, it's in the manual, but you gotta bring it's.
Dang, I wanted Apple sand.
BYOS. Bring your own sand.
I was just about to do that, Joe. This is a BYOS program. They have a sand container. Now, where does the sand container come from?
Steven, I can get you some sand.
Thanks, man.
I have a sand guy for real. Yeah, Just tell me what kind of sand you want, and I can get you some sand.
Like the grade.
He needs clean, dry, untreated sand, 8 to 10 cups.
Right, but you want tropical sand, Mediterranean sand? You know.
It doesn't say.
Well,
Doesn't.
just
doesn't
say the
say.
word, and I'll get you some sand.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Where do you get clean, dry, untreated sand?
Hey, my guy is a clean and untreated sand. You know, top quality, top shelf. You know.
You got to keep it. Well, don't put it on the top shelf because you have to keep it within reach 2 feet on both sides of the workspace, not above the workspace.
Right,
so the
okay.
shelf will probably be above. Can I just read this? How to handle a
Yes.
battery thermal event.
Yes.
All right. This. I know this is going to be good. A battery thermal event is a rapid chemical chain reaction that occurs inside a battery cell. They don't say this, but AKA fire. The energy stored in the battery is released suddenly, which can cause outgassing and fire.
So an
A
explosion.
battery,
Yeah.
like outgassing. Oh god,
The
I'm 9
energy
years
is
old. The
released
battery
suddenly.
thermal event can be triggered by physical damage to the battery, improper replacement or repair, or temperatures outside the battery's operating range. Act immediately if you notice any of the following signs of a battery thermal event. The lithium-ion battery or device that contains one begins to smoke or emits sparks or soot.
Right, that's not good.
Soot is a bad one, right? Like, whoa, you don't breathe that in.
Charred, burned battery
Wow.
bits.
The battery pouch suddenly and quickly puffs out.
Ah.
The lithium-ion battery or a device that contains one begins to emit hissing or popping
Hissing,
sounds.
Steven.
Don't let it hiss, Steven. Don't use water or an ABC
What's an
or
ABC?
carbon dioxide fire extinguisher.
It's a type of fire extinguisher.
Because I hadn't gotten far enough in the sentence, right? Like I was just like, oh, don't use water, of course. But no, don't use water or an ABC or a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher on a battery thermal event or a device that is undergoing one. Could do with some punctuation somewhere in that sentence. There is none. That is a very long sentence, Stephen. I don't think you'd like that one. Water and ABC or carbon dioxide fire extinguishers won't stop the reaction. Do smother the battery or device immediately with plenty of clean, dry sand. Dump the sand all at once. Timing is critical.
Okay.
The faster you pour all the sand, the sooner the reaction will be contained. Who knew that sand was so good?
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yeah, sand is good. Okay.
If your phone is on your desk and it's on fire, are you taking your time pouring the sand? Or are you just like,
Get a bucket of sand and
Little
just
bit at a
drop
time.
it there. It's like the ice bucket challenge, but for sand on
that's
a fire.
right, yeah.
The sand bucket challenge. Do contact local fire authorities if further assistance is needed. Do leave the room for 30 minutes after the reaction is contained. Ventilate the area. Don't return until the area is clear of smoke. Do wait 30 minutes before touching the device. Wear the heat-resistant gloves and safety glasses with side shields to remove the device from the sand. Do wipe the affected area with water first, so you can use water now. Then wipe the area with an ESD safe cleaning solution. Do dispose of the damaged battery or device, including any debris removed from the sand, according to local environmental laws and guidelines.
Right. Okay.
That is how
so
to handle a battery thermal event.
keep the sand in a jar or something on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, within grabbing distance. And if there's a fire, just grab it quickly. Make sure you grab the sand. Don't grab, grandpa or something on the shelf. Use sand and drop that on the fire, and then leave the house for 30 minutes. And then return once the explosion has been contained. All this honestly sounds very dangerous.
Yeah.
Why would people do it in their homes? Like,
to spend more money.
So you would spend a lot of money. So let me just get this straight. So you spend a bunch of money. You spend like what, $330, and you get an 80-pound box delivered to your house, right? And then you got to set up this environment, which needs to be a clean and safe environment, and you got to have some sand nearby. You're going to open an iPhone using those machines that look dangerous and scary. There's a risk of a fire, and in that case, you got to take the sand and drop it on your workspace, leave the house, and make sure that there's no... honestly, just go to an Apple store,
I will say, scrolling through the images of how you remove the screen, it does look really fun. It looks fun, like the machinery.
Yeah,
like it's
yes.
these big suction cups, and like it looked. Stephen, were you going to do anything like this?
I kind of wish I had a phone that needed a screen, but I don't have any broken iPhone 12 or 13s laying around.
You don't have to have a broken screen to replace the screen.
That's true.
This feels like fertile YouTube soil. If
I think
if you don't have to
YouTube-
sign an agreement of some kind.
You mean fertile YouTube sand?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. I'm sure that I will get beat to it, so it is what it is.
Jerry rig everything's probably already on it.
Yeah, I think Quinn ordered basically one of everything.
Well, doesn't he always do that?
Yeah.
I actually do really want to see him do it. Actually, I didn't think.
Yeah,
of
and
Quinn.
he used to repair iPhones for a living, so he knows what he's doing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was like the guy at the mall who's like, "Hey, come in and let me fix your iPhone screen."
Really?
And now he's a YouTuber. I don't actually know if that's true. I do know he used to repair phones. I don't know if it was at the mall.
Are you just making this up?
No, he had a tweet today. It's like, I used to repair phones, so I ordered a bunch of stuff.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. I kind of hope he breaks one for the entertainment. You know, I mean that's gonna be fun.
I hope he doesn't have a BTE though. No, I don't want a BTE for him.
No,
It's
no BTE.
dangerous.
No BTE, but just like casually break one without harm. That'd be fun. It'd be like, oh shucks, I've broken one. You know.
I think the weirdest thing you can buy on this website, I don't know what you would do to be in a situation where you need to replace this, but you can buy an iPhone SIM tray for like $7.
That's a pretty good deal.
What is it? Like, what are you doing to a SIM tray that you need to replace it?
Do you need a toolkit?
There's a $4 SIM eject tool. Like the little paperclip
how
looking
much?
thing.
How much?
You could look.
$4.
This could be an accent piece. You can buy them for all the different colors.
Good.
So you could buy a red SIM tray and put it in your iPhone.
I could. I didn't think about that.
For the fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or you could buy, let's see, iPhone 13 Pro Max.
We could buy a camera and stick it in the studio display.
It's gonna look better.
Bottom speaker.
What's a camera? How do you pronounce this? Cowling?
Cowling. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cowling.
don't know what that is. I saw that word earlier. Cowling. Stephen, surely when they put the Macs on here, there's going to be stuff you're going to want, though, right?
I'm gonna try. I know what I should do. I should try to build a Mac out of parts I can buy on this website.
Whoa.
How far can I get building a MacBook Air?
Well, I don't think you can buy.
Can't buy the logic board.
Well, no, I don't think you can buy the housing of the iPhone.
Yeah, you can't buy the back plate.
Yeah, well, you can buy the A15, for example. You know, like you can buy the core itself.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. You can get a new Taptic engine.
Yeah.
if you want.
Whose Taptic engines are dying?
How would you know?
Could you get like? No, it's not gonna work, is it? Like I was thinking, like
What do you want?
Get the logic board of an old iPhone, but use modern accessories with it. But it's not gonna the camera is not gonna be recognized.
It's not gonna fit.
and it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
iPhone 13 Pro Max.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what the Mac one of these looks like too.
Me too.
Like, what will you be able to buy? Like, for example, imagine a future where they have a MacBook Air with a white keyboard. Would you be able to put the white keyboard in a different computer? Or
That would be
something,
cool.
You know. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, self-service repair. It's here. You probably should take advantage of it, and maybe Apple's okay with that.
Oh, they
Hold on a
definitely
sec.
are.
Can you send
that's a good
online?
Yeah.
I mean, sure you can, but not a lot. A little bit. I think it's got to be a lot,
Buying and selling sand.
and it's got to be
Bulk sand.
clean,
on
dry,
Amazon.
untreated sand.
You can buy sand on Amazon.
Yeah.
Did you buy it by the grain?
There's you can. Okay, so there's kinetic sand, but that's for kids.
Yeah, that sticks to itself. That actually may be worse for a battery thermal event.
That's gonna catch fire for sure.
Uh-huh.
Also because it's colored and there's chemicals in it. So
1
All right,
gallon
cool.
play sand, highest quality, building and molding, sandbox and play areas, $25.
Probably not Playbox sand or sandbox sand is probably not what you're looking for.
natural decorative sand, 2 pounds. Real sand for using crafts, decor, vase filler, and more.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Hover, one of Relay FM's longest running sponsors. When you have that one big idea, where do you go? Well, your business starts with a domain name, so for many entrepreneurs, Hover is that first big leap. Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from. No matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for it. They have excellent technical support to answer any questions you may have. If you're like a lot of us and you just like look at things like MX records and get worried, they can help you through all that stuff because they're dedicated to getting you online, not upselling you with things you don't need. Hover has free Whois privacy so the bad guys don't get your information. Clean UX and UI is built into everything Hover does. It all looks and works really great. And they have monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's easy to see why Hover is the popular choice for people starting businesses. All of my domains are at Hover, domains that I use every day for websites I own, a bunch of domains that forward other places. They have these great forwarding tools. So you can say, I want to buy, MacintoshStories.net and send it somewhere else. Easy to do with Hover. You like intuitive user experiences and things that just work straight out of the box, so I know you're going to appreciate Hover. Their UX and UI really is simple, clean, and easy to navigate. Buy your domain and start using it today. Go to hover.com/connected and get a 10% discount on all new purchases. That URL one more time, hover.com/connected. Make a name for yourself with Hover. Our thanks to Hover for the support of the show and Relay FM. He did it. He went and did it, guys.
Yes. Mike bought some sand. No?
I'm happy to announce I have bought 46 billion grains of sand.
Well, it's probably not a lot. It's probably... how many? Okay, I don't want to think about that. That's too deep. We're talking about this, okay? So Elon Musk has bought Twitter, right? That's the news. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, he's entered an agreement to buy Twitter, technically. It's not done until the fall.
Okay.
There's still hope.
How do we approach talking about this?
Not well.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I feel like, at the best of my abilities, I'm going to share how I feel, which is I used to be very fascinated by Elon Musk's figure. To an extent, I still am for some things, but especially over the past couple of years, the kind of character he's played on social media and the things he has said has made my respect for the guy go really, really, really down. Starting with, some things he said at the beginning of the pandemic, just the general attitude he has on social media. And I'm conflicted, right? I'm conflicted because on the one hand, I look at SpaceX and I'm like, that's super cool. And I like the big vision thinking behind many of the things that SpaceX is doing. And I think we're all in agreement that, doing space stuff is neat and cool.
I have weird feelings about space that I tell Stephen a lot.
Exactly. But there's also the angle of, but it's a private space company. Is that really necessary right now when we have so many? I don't know. I feel very...
Well, in America, it does seem like only private space companies are able to get anything done. I don't know about worldwide, but this is what Liftoff taught me.
I don't know. I'm very conflicted. And I would say, though, I would summarize it as I don't consider myself a fan of the guy. I don't like the guy. And I know that, he has a legion of fans on Twitter ready to attack you if you say this publicly. So it kind of sucks that he bought Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, his successes in making electrified cars cool, and his success, and he really has revolutionized the low Earth orbit, launch industry through SpaceX. Those are both amazing feats. And of course, he hasn't done them single-handedly. And in SpaceX's case, he doesn't even run the company day to day. Glenn Shotwell does, and she does an amazing job at it. I would argue that Tesla would be a better company if he wasn't directly at the head of it and was more kind of the engineering inspiration like he is at SpaceX. But
maybe this is leading to
and
that.
It may be. And I had that thought. I was like, maybe this is going to be really good for Tesla. But but you can't everyone is complicated. It's very hard to separate people's work from what they say and all those things. But it can be true that he's done amazing things in his career and that he's a bit problematic on Twitter. And some of his views, especially around free speech and moderation, seem honestly just really like poorly informed. Like, I don't think he has any idea what he's getting ready to get into. If he is involved with Twitter day to day, and he may not be, he may just buy it and let someone else run it. But I don't think he understands the complexity of the moderation problem. I mean, he did this TED interview a lot of people have talked about. It was really bad. It's like, oh, well, the algorithm is going to fix everything. We're going to make it open source. Like, that doesn't actually do anything. Like, you cannot look at that sort of code and anyone understand what it's doing. But B, moderation involves actual people making decisions based on policies. And we can debate those policies and those people's decisions, but this is not a problem that he can like apply AI to and it be fixed. And it's that really worries me, that I don't think he, according to his comments and what he said, I mean, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems like to me, he just has a really simplified model of what's wrong with Twitter and how it could be fixed that I think is just going to fall apart when it hits the real world.
Like that thing about we're going to open source the algorithm and that's going to make it all better. Like, it just doesn't resonate with me, because sure, you can open source whatever you want, and sure, you can have people take a look at how certain posts are promoted in the timeline and how the algorithm works. But at the end of the day, if I get harassed on Twitter, if I get doxxed on Twitter, if I get attacked by hundreds of anonymous people on Twitter, that, you know, knowing that, hey, but at least the algorithm is open source behind the scenes, like, that's not going to fix anything. You know, maybe it's even going to make it worse, because you're going to give people with malicious intents even more knowledge on how to play the algorithm to their, you know, in their favor. If anything, that could make it better. That could make it worse, right? For people who feel unsafe online. So this whole idea of we need to run a social media company on the premise of free speech, the problem is that, you know, free speech is often used as an excuse, you know, from this right-wing, you know, leaning folks, or just in general, even if you set the politics aside, is used as an excuse from people who want to say whatever they want to say online. And that's the thing, you can't. And there's laws, not just in the United States, in Europe, in Italy specifically, to me, there's laws that prevent you from saying certain things to certain people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. My freedom ends where yours begins, right? As the expression goes. I cannot just come out and say the worst possible things to you. There have to be repercussions, because that's how we live in a civil society, and that's also just the basic human decency, an idea of respect for the other. And so when free speech is used is you know, brandished as an excuse to allow a certain group of people to harass other people and to make them feel small and to make them feel, bad and to make them feel marginalized, that's not free speech. That's just abuse. And it's not right, you know? And so using this expression of free speech as this sort of trick to get people in the door and say, look, I'm going to do great things for you because I'm going to value free speech. I'm going to let you, social media so far as, kept your mouth shut because they wanted to silence you. They wanted to censor you. I'm going to be the savior of social media for free speech. You're saying that? I'm hearing other things. I'm hearing, I don't care about moderation. I'm going to let everybody say whatever they want to say to other people because that's free speech. And the consequences of that will be horrible.
Yeah, especially for people who are already experiencing that in other places in life, right?
Yep.
There's this term that gets thrown around with Twitter that it's like the town square. It's the community market where we can all go and share ideas. The reality is that just like the real world, life on the internet, like it reflects those injustices and those biases people already have. first thing in a lot of people's mind, we're talking about it in Discord right now, is those communities, they are protected by moderation policy. It's not perfect. There's a lot more work that needs to be done in those areas. But if your stance is going to be, we're going to get rid of a lot of that stuff, those communities are the ones that will suffer first, right? It's not the rich white guys like Elon Musk. It's just not. And that's really what I mean by like, he seems to lack like the like there's a humanity side to Twitter that's not present in the other problems Elon Musk is taking on. And I think that he just doesn't have a grasp on that.
Yeah, I think in the effort of attempted completeness, I think he did say at one point, like to follow free speech within the law, but like it kind of felt like it was just a thing he was saying because people were upset at him.
Yeah, well, and even that he said in the law of whatever country we're operating in. So like,
which is like incredibly
complicated.
Like, good luck. Yeah.
And
yeah, it's like good luck. All of the countries simultaneously.
Yeah.
So no one can actually say anything. Like everything just cancels each other out until we get to a point where like.
Well, and does it mean that people in one country can reply in a certain way and not another country? Like Twitter's already dealing with this, right? And you have the complication that Musk's company Tesla is huge in China. They just opened a really big manufacturing site there. He does a lot of business there, and I think Twitter is actually banned in China currently, or they left. I don't know what direction that change came from, but it's all going to be so much more complicated for him and for the company. And I just and I've thought about it all week. Like, I don't know what he gets out of it. Like, I don't understand why he's willing to take all of this on. Is it that he doesn't really have a grasp on it? Is it that he thinks it's undervalued and misled, which it has been? Twitter has always been mismanaged from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They had, kind of like a musical chairs of co-founders and CEOs, and it's just been a mess from the very beginning. Maybe he can bring some stability to that, and I think for at least people who work at Twitter, some stability would be good. But I don't know what the long-term play is here. If he does, or new management, whoever, it's not just him, I'm using him as a stand-in. If new Twitter leadership comes in and they sort of embrace some of these ideas about free speech and other things, and they dismantle some of the moderation, or they have to deal with all these international laws, like there's a real chance that it makes Twitter even worse than it is. And like Twitter's already not good. Like, I know we're on it. I know the Apple community, Twitter is the hangout area. It's not true for a lot of communities. Like Twitter is tech people and journalists and sports people, and their user base is small beyond those areas. And even in those areas, there's lots of problems. And so I don't know what he gets. I don't know why he did it other than
power,
it being a meme at the beginning. Like, I don't understand. It really blows my mind.
It's power and influence. Like Twitter is so. I'm not saying things that smarter people. I'm saying things I've heard smarter people say. Like Twitter has such an outsized influence in the world compared to, as you said, Stephen, its user base compared to say Facebook or whatever. Like when people aren't talking about like, oh, Kim Kardashian's Facebook post as much as they're maybe Instagram, but as much as they are like. Look at, like news is made by tweets. People tweet things, it gets on the news, right?
Yeah, watch any 24-hour news service.
Potentially we can thank Donald Trump for that, right? Like, like it's been going this way for a while, but like Trump made that like all politics happens on Twitter, right? Like this is just a thing that people do all the time. And so considering how important to society this service is, the fact that it doesn't make money is mad.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense, right? They should be able to find a way to make money, but they have not been able to find a reliable way to make money. So from a business perspective, if you think you have a good way to do it, you could do it. If it was me, if I bought Twitter, I would just charge people for it. Like it would cost $10 a year.
Yeah.
And they would probably make more money than they're already making, right? It's just like easy. It's a small amount of money, right? $10 a year to use the service that you use every day.
Yeah.
And Honestly, I think if you did that, it would cover a lot of the problems anyway. So just like $10 a year.
Get rid of the people and the trolls and, the folks who...
Yeah, get rid of the bots. And that's what I would do. Come in, $10 a year, no ads. And if you don't pay, you can't use it. Like, that's the way I would do it, right? Like, everyone's going to have their own feeling about that. I'm sure I'm going to get a million people tell me why all these people... fine, but that's what I would do, right? Like, if I was buying Twitter, that's what I would do. I would make people pay for it. Maybe he wants to do that, maybe he doesn't. I will say, like, just my read on the situation, I think at the moment, he's just saying a bunch of buzzwords. Like, he doesn't know if he can do all of these things, and I'm not sure if he even wants to do all the things that he's talking about wanting to do. Like, does he really care about getting rid of all the bots? Probably not. Right? Like, he's just, I think at the moment, he's just saying a bunch of stuff. And then when he actually takes control of the company, he'll realize what he's able to do or what the person he puts in charge is able to do.
You realize, well, I don't really want to work here. I'm just going to put someone in charge and they'll figure it out. And
yeah, I don't think he's going to become the CEO of Twitter. It's beneath him, honestly, like compared to being the CEO of Tesla. Becoming the CEO of Twitter is demoting himself, right? Like Tesla is a more valuable, more important in the grand scheme of things company, I think, than Twitter, right? Like, I know I said this outsized influence thing, blah, 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 blah. But, like, if he bought Facebook, becoming CEO of Facebook is more important than being CEO of Tesla, like, in my opinion, right? Like, if you're ranking all these things. Like, I could actually make an argument that maybe it'd be more important to be CEO of SpaceX than Twitter. Like, you're just thinking about, like, your potential impact, right? Like, but clearly, Tesla, did I say Twitter? I meant Tesla, but SpaceX, then Tesla. But Tesla is just, I think, for whatever reason, he sees that as the thing that he wants to be involved in on a day-to-day. So, like, I just reckon, and also, like, I understand, like, trust me, right? Like, I am not going to be affected by any moderation policy, right?
Yeah.
None of us are.
No.
None of us are, right? There are people that are affected by moderation policy changes. So please do not take this as me diminishing your opinion. I don't think they're going to be able to get away with changes to the moderation policy. One, I don't think that like people working at Twitter en masse would want to do it. And two, legally, they're not going to be able to do this because there is just more and more push from governments all over the world about this kind of stuff. And I just cannot imagine a world in which they're like, no moderation policy, we're off to the races. Like, I just can't see it happening. Like, it doesn't seem like you would still be able to hold the same level of social importance if you got rid of that. Let alone the fact that I just think from a legal perspective, it would just be too complicated to do. Plus, winding all that stuff back just seems like more hassle than it's worth, right? Like, what would be the reason to buy Twitter and then just be like, do whatever you want? Like, I just don't think that that's his reason for doing it. I genuinely think for him, it's just like a case of like, he wants to have this big power on the world, right? It's like, I think we were talking about this before we went live today. Like, why did Jeff Bezos buy a newspaper? Like, why did Steve Ballmer buy a sports team?
It's the prestige of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did I buy a bunch of sand on Amazon?
It's the prestige of it. Same answer. Will we be using Twitter in a year? That's a fun thing to think about. It's also very strange because I feel like I owe so much to Twitter, as a network. So many connections. I mean, you guys, very likely discovered you both via Twitter. And we've made so many connections over the years. And, Twitter is an essential tool for our audience, whether it's a podcast or a website. It's where people can get the fastest updates from us. And so it's weird to think about a potential Twitter-free future in case things go a certain direction with it. So I honestly feel pretty concerned because I love, and I realize this is my biased perspective, but I love what I've been able to do professionally, for work purposes on Twitter. I dislike, and I cannot even begin to imagine what it's like for other people that are not like me. I dislike what it's become from a personal perspective, So it's been a very useful work tool, but there's also the problem of, moderation, harassment. having moderation policies that are constantly updated and maintained and looked after, and coming in and saying, free speech this and free speech that, it only makes me more concerned. So it's hard to stay optimistic, I guess, would be my conclusion.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And in a world where there are so many other things going on trying to quiet the voices of people who are dealing with all sorts of other things, like I'm sure, it's scary. It's scary to consider what social media platforms would look like if they go down this road of lifting moderation or following in the footsteps of some like state governments here, like saying teachers can and can't talk about certain things. Like it's a very scary time in a lot of the world, and seeing those influences on something like Twitter or, a much bigger platform like Facebook or Instagram, like it is scary and it is sad. And I think that's like my overall feeling about this is a feeling of sadness, not only at the possible future, but of the damage that has already been done because of users on Twitter who are terrible people.
I think ultimately social media was a bad thing for the world.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, we've had great things, like lots of people can talk about great things that have happened in their lives because of it, right? But I think the net result is to society more negative than it is positive.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I keep thinking about and feeling in this new cycle of Elon buying Twitter, is just a reminder of that, and a reminder of kind of how fragile it all is. Like, even with the moderation that is on Twitter, like Twitter does have in their moderation policies rules around misgendering people, but that rule's broken all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter's ability to handle user reports when tweets get flagged seems bad at best and negligent, possibly even.
Mm-hmm.
To imagine like how bad it is right now, and if that were to get worse, just is very dark. And I don't like it because I, like Federico, owe a lot to the network and the contacts I've made on it. And for my career or my profession, it is an important way in which I communicate with people. But at some point, Elon Musk or no, that was always going to change, right? Like,
yeah,
I've always, not always, but in the last several years, since 2016 or so, I've always felt like there's an end game for Twitter that's bad. And, this may accelerate it, and it may not. Like, it may not. We just don't know. And I think that's kind of the point.
It's no coincidence. It's no coincidence, to your point, Stephen, that over the past few years we've been growing our own private communities. I don't think these things are unrelated. It's not a coincidence that more and more folks are doing their own Discord servers, where it's a smaller, more contained space where you can apply your own moderation policies and where you can make people feel welcome in a safe environment and all that. It's not a coincidence, I don't think. And so, yeah, honestly, I'm just sad. I'm sad and concerned, and usually I tend to be a pretty optimistic person, I think. And I really would like to be regarding this news as well. I don't know. And there's also, I don't share the enthusiasm of, the richest white man in the world. He's got that evil billionaire aura around him. I don't know. It's just... do we really want the richest man in the world to also control a communication platform? That seems like potentially a bad idea, I don't know.
And look, I want to wrap this up by saying our point of view on this, while we try our very best to listen and understand everybody, our point of view is limited by who we are. And just like everyone else's is, everyone has that. And I hope that the three of us and our respective companies and projects reflect a desire to be good listeners
Yeah.
to those who have different backgrounds from us, because we all need that. And that is like, that's the beauty of what social media can be, right? Like there are people in my life who I mean, including the two of you, but also people who don't look like the three of us, don't sound like the three of us, who I've met because of social media, right? I have been educated and humbled by things that I have seen and heard people talk about on social media that make me a better, more empathetic person. And that is the good that the social media networks can bring.
That's a good point. That there are points of view that I never would have considered
Yeah.
if it wasn't for the people that I follow on Twitter. Like whole worldviews that I never would have been able to understand.
Mm-hmm. And with that connection, right, brings all of those good things, right? But it also brings the possibility of all the bad things. And the goal and the reason for moderation, the reason we have rules in our member Discord, is to strike the balance between those two things. Unfortunately, these big social media companies, Twitter, right there in it, they haven't found that they haven't built the balance in the right place. And that's really at the heart of the concern, is that with all this connecting of people and ideas, can you foster community that makes everyone at the end of the day better human beings for it? Or do you let hateful, small people rule? And Twitter and Facebook and, Reddit and MySpace before them, like they've all struggled with this. And when you see someone or any change coming to those social networks, you just have to question what happens to that balance. And I think for me, like that's why this feels so heavy. It's not that, oh, I just like love hanging out with my friends on Twitter and like, that's fine. I would be sad if that went away. But the bigger picture, I think, is what is eating at so many of us, of finding a way to keep the good and to nourish the good and keep the bad at bay. And I'm just not I'm not convinced Twitter's ever done a good job of that. I mean, their outgoing leadership is a joke, but so is the new guy. And that just gives me pause.
Maybe it's just a cursed company,
That's also a theory.
It's the curse of audio.
It is.
So you're saying that ultimately all the problems come down to podcasts?
Podcasts.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
That is what I'm saying. Yep.
I don't love that.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Right? All the good things, all the bad things, all comes back to podcasts. I mean, did you see the Joe Rogan's audience has increased?
Yeah.
Yeah, not surprised. Not surprised, really.
So you know what I'm saying? All the bad things, right?
Yeah. And
all
that's,
the bad things.
at the risk of getting back on the soapbox just for a second.
Nah, get it, man. Get on it. I just made that soapbox bigger. And now
Yeah, it's full of sand, actually. It's a sandbox.
sandbox.
I'm in the sandbox. Batteries are buried everywhere. The thing that's been floating around of like, I will leave Twitter when X and Y. And we all have our own red lines there. I think maybe a lot of us even have the same exact red line. But the thing with like Joe Rogan's audience being bigger because of the spicy rhetoric around the things that he says, that's a very real thing on the internet, right? It's a very real thing in real life. Like when you pass a car crash, you turn around to look at it, right? We all have that sort of brokenness inside of us. And like that's a decision everyone has to make, right? About if they stay or don't stay on any one social network. Like a decision that I've made that is inherently and fundamentally at odds with itself is I'm not on Facebook, but I am on Instagram, right? Like all that money flows to the same people. It's all the same, at the end of the day, the same company, but the products are different and I choose to interact with one product and not the other. Mm-hmm. Everyone listening, the three of us, everyone on Twitter is going to have to make that decision. But I would say that a factor in that decision should not only be like, what does Twitter do? There's like the red line that I can't cross with them. But I do think that there is something to the idea that like if everyone who like cares about the things that we care about in terms of listening to people who have different points of view and background, people from different places, people from different walks of life, people with different identities than our own. If I left Twitter, I would lose access to some of that. As someone who hopefully is bringing more good than bad to the platform, if I leave, it's a little bit of good that goes with me, right? If we all leave, it's a little bit of like good people who really care about each other, and that makes the platform worse a little bit. So like, I'm not casually closing my Twitter account. I actually take that decision like really seriously, and not even from a career standpoint, which is like a whole different debate, but just like as a human being, do I make this place better or worse? And does it make me better or worse? I just think that's a really complicated decision, and one that like it's easy to joke about because a bunch of people are like, I'm going to leave. And that's fine. Like if you feel that way, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I think it's actually like a really big decision to consider if and when someone does that.
So I don't have a red line, right? There isn't like a single thing that could happen that I can imagine that's like, well, that like now we've done it, you know, like now I'm going to delete my account. For me, it is the feeling of if everybody who's not like me is leaving, then I'm like, now's the time, right? For what you were saying, right? Of like, I use Twitter as a tool to broaden my worldview. And I know the changes that it's had on me, the things I understand, the things I have view of that I didn't before. And if all of these people that don't look and come from the same background as me, all decide that like now's the time to go, like this is too much, then I need to look at it and be like, okay, right? Like there isn't like a thing, right? I could imagine for a lot of people, right? Like I would just say what's not being said. If Donald Trump comes back to the platform, right?
Yeah.
I imagine that is a line where a lot of people say, well, screw this.
Yeah.
But what I would say is I was there the whole time he was there the first time. So that isn't the thing for me.
That was before he tried to start a civil war, but
Right, but he did so many bad things.
yeah,
Like
well,
Twitter only got rid of him because they could then. Like he was at one point trying to stir up a nuclear war with North Korea
that was also
on Twitter, right? Like he did so many bad things but they couldn't get rid of him. Right? And I was like, you know, I was there the whole time when he was there, right? And so, but I'm not saying like if that's your red line, good, have it, right? Like, and if it happens, stand by it. But for me, it's like I don't see there being this like one event, right? Like I don't have in my mind this one event. It's like a thing that if I notice over time has changed, or like there is something that happens, whatever it might be, and then there is this like knock-on effect of everybody saying, I'm out of here, right? And it's, again, these people that don't come from my world, then I'd be like, right, I don't want to be the only, like, I don't want to be standing in here and looking around and everyone's just like me, because that's suggesting that this maybe isn't the right place anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I was saying, there isn't this, like, I think for a lot of people, they do have that one thing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, that is, like, a perfectly valid thing. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't really have that one thing. Like, it has to be a change. Because if Trump comes back and then everyone stays on Twitter to complain about it, right? Like, and then they're going to stay on Twitter to complain, like, then was it that bad thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right? This is so complicated. This is always the problem talking about this stuff on a podcast. I'm sure there's people going, shaking their head and being like, Mike, I can't believe you're saying these things. Just understand that I'm a human being and I'm just talking.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're trying to approach this, I think, with as much humility and thoughtfulness as we can. But it is really, really complicated. And because Twitter's it's like, again, like I said, it's like the meeting place for our sort of Apple nerdy community, amongst many other communities, it makes it harder to talk about. Because it is also like, I was going to say it's Meta, but that's a company. It has this like extra layer to it that it's hard to wrestle with. And hopefully what we have talked about, like that comes across, that the three of us are wrestling with it and don't quite know how to feel or what to think about it. And it was going to change over time as this continues to unfold. I think really though, at the end of the day, all this does is it accelerates what was already coming for Twitter. I think that's what I was trying to get to a few minutes ago when I said for a while I feel like there's an end game. Like this, I think just speeds it up. And either in 5 years, either Twitter will be a fantastic place that's like well moderated and safe for everyone, or it'll be effectively gone for any of us who care about other people. And that is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day.
I will say, as time has gone on, my ability to leave is just becoming more likely.
Yeah.
Like, as time has gone on for me, I'm not like more and more unlikely to leave Twitter. Like, I don't have a plan. Like, as I said, I don't have like a goal of like why. But like, if I felt like I needed to, my ability to do that, I think, has only gotten easier over time, because it isn't a nice place. It is the quote unquote toxic hell site, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is bad, right? Like, even if you are lucky enough to not have it be bad actively to you, it's impossible to go on Twitter and not feel bad a lot of the time because of what's happening around it. Like, you don't have to look very far to find things that make you angry, upset, mad, like all these kinds of things. So, like, there is a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, but I just think over time, over my, like 15 years of using it,
Oh.
the equation has changed more. Like, at first, it was all good, right?
Yeah.
And then as the good and bad is shifting for me, So maybe that's why I come to this view of like, I think that maybe net for the universe, it's social media has been bad. Just because I feel like for my own personal balance, Twitter, which is my main social network, the good bad scale is tipping and has consistently tipped for the last 15 years in the bad, not anywhere back towards the good.
So what we're saying is that we're not going to be putting a bid together to buy a social network.
I told you guys years ago I wanted to buy Yo and then Peach, and you never listened to me. And now look how valuable both services are.
Peach is still around.
Yeah.
The guy from Vine bought it, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like a thing anymore, but it's alive.
If you want to find links to stuff we spoke about, head on over to our website, relay.fm/connected/395. While you're there, you can join Connected Pro. That's a longer ad-free version of the show each and every week. You can also send us an email from the website with feedback or follow-up. We love hearing from everybody. I would especially love to hear if people do start doing their own iPhone repairs, how that goes, because that seems like a wild time to me. Maybe if Mike comes back to the U.S. this year, maybe we can order some parts and do his phone. It'll be fun. Would you let me fix your phone?
I don't know if I would trust you more than I trust myself.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad.
I don't think it's bad, but I think 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh, there's like no way I could do it, but Stephen could definitely do it, the two of us. But now I feel like...
But now you can solder and stuff.
I feel like I'm more experienced. I think next Friday, you was asking me if I got anything to talk about. Next Friday on the 6th, I'm going to take apart the keyboard.
Doing the Touch ID modification?
Yeah, I'll let you know the week after how I feel about popping open an
Okay.
iPhone. Because if that goes south, then there's no way I could do an iPhone.
All right. Well, you can find us all online. Federico is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. Winding down Automation April, so be sure to keep an eye on the Mac Stories homepage as you guys finish out the month strong. Mike is the host of a bunch of other shows here on Relay FM, and of course, the Friday Keyboard Club, or Touch ID Disassembly Club this week.
It's still a keyboard.
It will be for a little while longer.
Yeah. My goal, by the way, is to try and embed it in another keyboard, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. I need to be able to see the parts and try and understand if it's possible. But it is my goal to try and retrofit it into another keyboard.
It's fantastic. I also host Mac Power Users here on Relay FM, and you can find my writing at 512pixels.net. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week. They were Trade Coffee, Indeed, and Hover. Until next time, guys, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.